Right, you guys, we're back for the circular spacer. Next one. All right, so let's open this up. Pretty much the same assignment description, drawing PDF, one-to-one scale. It's a circular spacer. So got my PDF here. I've already got my PDF open for that. This one. Come back to it in just a second. And then it's essentially this. So here's the dimensions I'll follow. And then when we turn it in, it'll just look like this. And that's fine. One thing I've noticed that I can change on this is maybe I don't need these center lines that are coming from center of everything out to kind of nowhere here, but through that. I'll show you why I potentially don't need them on my drawing. It's okay if you included them, but really they are to catch dimensions, and where we're not dimensioning, I don't really need them. So that, I mean, the reason why those really exist is because I'm pulling a bunch of dimensions from them, and I'm referencing some degrees, dimensions by degrees here that would be captured there. So that's why I can eliminate them, and I'll talk through it when I get there too. Um, the other thing that you might not have is this, like this one shows a little center mark, and the reason why this shows a center mark here, I'll zoom in just a little bit, is because it's affiliated with this dimension. Once this dimension was put on here, and the way the dimension style was like formatted, it dropped that little center mark. You can choose in a dimension style to either like leave those marks or remove them, and so I actually didn't catch this till I looked at it again. I was like, oh, that thing dropped a center mark. That's actually because of this dimension pointing to it. And where these ones don't have dimensions pointing to them, they don't have that little center, little crosshair for the center. So, so let me just analyze what's going on here just a little bit. I think this is sufficient. I could look at my PDF, but this is fine. It's just a 6-inch diameter circle, and it's got these two inner circles. One of them's 2-inch diameter, the smaller one, and then the other one comes out 2 3/4 diameter. And then we have this pattern of three 1-inch diameter holes. And so this is a new command type that we'll learn while we do this assignment. So I'll focus a lot when I get to putting these holes on. I think the way I'm going to proceed with this is I'm going to build the large circle and the inner circles, and then I'll probably do my crosshair. I'll probably do my center mark to show that everything is concentric. And then I'll come and worry about these three holes in there. The other thing that I need to have for these three holes is I need to know kind of how far they are spaced out from center out. Like this center, if I could measure this over to where that is, um, where the center meets center of this kind of, that is what is going on here. And so this diameter that is on actually a center line diameter, 4.38, that's actually where the center would cross kind of in relation to the center of the part, or all of these other three circles, the concentric nature of those, how far out they are. Like this is 4 3/8 across as a diameter here. It helps me. I need to know that to even be able to place how far those are out from center. So I'll come back to that when I do those three hole patterns. Let's do the rest first. So I'm going to go to CAD. And I've got my template already opened. I've actually already I've already jumped in here and renamed this as my circular spacer for my template. And I've already done a save as. So I opened my template and I did a save as. And so I'm on a DWG file type, right? So I opened my template, saved as, gave it a new name, circular spacer, CAD 1108 circular spacer in class for me is what I call it. And then change my date. So really, I've done a little bit of work here on my drawing, but I haven't done any modeling yet. So let's jump in and do the part modeling. So I'm going to jump over to my home tab and jump to my visible object line. I don't feel like I need to build the glass pane for this. I'm just going to start right from the circle information that I have, and whether I draw center radius or center diameter circles, I'll show you something that I have found with center diameter. So I think I've told you probably several times that center radius I thought was always the one that was here, and then it was and so I also found a little quirk to this. If I'm choosing center diameter to draw this first 6-inch diameter, I'll just come out here somewhere. 6-inch diameter is the first one I'm going to draw. Enter. So I've got that one drawn at 6 inches in diameter. Do a quick check. Yep, 6 inch diameter. So from there, um, if you want to jump into the last command you use, oh, that might mess me up. Back up just a minute. I'm not going to measure that. I'm going to drop this one more time. Bear with me. I'm trying to get this to maybe malfunction for me a little bit and see if I can troubleshoot what might happen. So there's me just doing one circle, entering. I've got two more to do. So a quick way is I always could go back up here and do that. I could actually type in the keystroke circle and start, C. I always think of the keystroke's going to probably start with the letter that the command starts with. So C for circle. Let me type in C. There's circle, but I'm not going to do that either. Another way to get back into the command that you used last was just to hit enter. Like enter is to close the command when you're using it. It also is the way to like reopen it really fast. So if I hit enter though, it wants to know the center. So it goes right back into this last command I used, which is circle in this case. And so it's like specify the center point of that circle. So I'm going to have them, I'm going to have them be concentric because I've got center chosen on my object snaps. I'm going to choose the center so they're concentric, and then I'm going to pull out. But what you will notice is when if you go back into the circle command with a quick keyboard shortcut, is just essentially if you've used center diameter, which is what I use, that's the command I use to make that 6 inch diameter one. When I hit enter back into the command, it actually is going to that default CAD way to draw a circle, which is center radius. So this is perhaps a hiccup if you like to use that. It's not a big deal if you're always used to going back up here and choosing from the drop down the right one. But what I'm saying is, I actually have to watch out if I'm using those quick enter commands. It wants to be, this is a center radius circle. And so you might not know the radius of this one, but you can always, from a center radius, if you look at the command line, you can always get to it by say D for diameter. And then really on my print, I have like a 2 inch diameter one. So I'll put two. And then I need one more circle. And this is where you can get in trouble, right? It's like back into the command. It's pretty common just to hit enter to go back into the command. And choose the center. And then the next one, it's a center radius again, but I can put D for diameter. The reason why the next one might be hard for you to input the radius if you're working on it is if you don't know the radius. I feel like the radius is easy to see when it's a 6 inch diameter. It's a 3 inch radius. Half the diameter is the radius. If a 2 inch hole, half the diameter is the radius of one. If I look at this, well, maybe depending on how familiar you are with dimensioning right now, or dimensions in general, or measurements, half a 2 3/4 could be hard for you to come up with in your head. I mean, you have a calculator access right here in your CAD that you could just dump. You could punch that number in if you wanted to input the radius, or you could just do D for diameter. But I'm just showing you that, yeah. So some dimensions get hard to like, especially some circular weird dimensions, and they might get hard to know what the radius is, especially if the print you're working from shows diameter, or if the sketch from the engineer, we're talking about diameter of holes or something. So eventually you'll learn that, 2.75 is 1 3/8 is the half of 3/4, or 0.75 is 3/8, 0.375. So you'll start to build some familiarity of this as we work with, and as I bring them up to your attention all the time. But so technically I can look at that radius of 2 3/4 and say that's 1 3/8 is the radius of that. But I'll just stick with diameter. So I'll say D for diameter and say it's 2.75. There's my three holes, three circles. And let's do some center marks. So I'm going to go to the center layer, and I'm going to go to the annotate tab, and I'm going to grab my center mark. So I feel like I'm going to express all the concentric nature of these holes by just choosing that. And then I just need to format that a little bit for ASME standard, right? Like I'm going to select it and go over to the properties tab and make sure the extensions on those are 1/4 inch extensions. And so now this is going to be the ASME standard extension is going to be a 1/4 inch from that triangle to here. Oh, I can see it like show up if I hover. That's the ASME standard we'd want. I mean, I could break that rule every once in a while, but that is like, if there's no reason to, then don't break that rule. Oh, I need one more circle too, and I'm on the circle center layer. Sorry, I need a circle that's on the center layer because my drawing I'll zoom in a little bit. Maybe I'll just maximize this. Has this is where these other like visible circles fit is their centers hit this. So I need to draw this circle just by diameter, 4.38. That one might be a little harder to divide in your head, but 3/8 I feel like is shorthand for 0.375. So 4 3/8. Two decimal places will round 0.375 up to 0.38. And then half of that would be 2, and half of 3/8 is 3/16. So it's kind of funny. You start to learn that 3/4, half of that's 3/8, half of that's 3/16. So this would be 2 and 3/16 if I was using the radius input. You could use the calculator to figure that out, or you could just go to diameter. So 4.38. And I don't have to use three decimal places. I don't have to assume that that is 3/8 like I just said. I'll just type in this number, 4.38. So let's do that. We'll pull this over. This one, my center command, I'll do a center diameter one, sure. The center is going to be all concentric. Just make sure I get on the center. If you have this going on where now I've got like a crosshair and I've got like maybe some conflicting object snaps here. Remember, if I want to isolate an object snap, this is super important to learn. So I try to repeat it as many times as I can, but you would hold down Shift and right click. And it brings up this menu that is hard to remember. And it's really how I isolate and kind of override all the other snaps and just really focus on one type of snap. So hold down Shift, right click when you're in the command. I'm in a circle command right now trying to pick the center, and I just want to pick center as the object snap that's available. So now I don't have all those snaps showing up. I don't even have quadrants showing up. But when I do hover over the geometry, I get the center snap, or I get the center snap to show up. So that helps me isolate a snap when I have a lot popping off that I just can't see. Of course, I could always go down here and turn them all off except for the one I want. But I really get in the habit of using that Shift right click and isolate which snap you specifically want. It becomes handy the sooner you learn that to me. And then I'm back in here to actually apply this diameter of 4.38. I'm just going to use it as it is on that drawing, two decimal place, 3/8. And so that's really all the circles I need to build except for the ones that are fancy, the three pattern here. So let's do that. Back on the visible layer, I'm going to put these three holes. I'm going to go back and look at the print just for a minute and tell you what I'm thinking here. So this hole is going to be kind of hard to place given the geometry that I've placed on my part already. Like with the circles that I've drawn, even with the crosshair that I've drawn or the center mark, I don't really have great geometry available to snap. Like if I wanted to draw this circle first, there's really no object snap on this circle to snap this to at 60 degrees. And I don't use it the same way where maybe I cursor over across this 60 degrees and over. I'll show you the other way I do it. As I would look at this and I'd say, maybe I won't start with this one because there's no object snap. Maybe I won't start with this one. But here, this one catches my attention because for one, this hole is kind of on like it's on my center mark. It's at the 6 o'clock kind of position of the part. And really what I end up having is because I've drawn this circle where that intersects the crosshair, this is going to be a snappable point here. And it's going to be where I want. I want this circle to be out on this whole circle diameter. I want those centers to match each other. And then I'll be able to pick that where it intersects with that center mark. And so I'm and that's not intuitive to know what geometry I should draw to be able to help me snap. There are other ways I could do this, but this is the way I visualize that this might be the easiest way to proceed is that I'm going to grab a circle by diameter, sure. But what I'm saying is that I just don't have a snap up here to snap to. I've got quadrants of circles, I've got centers of circles. I have no way to know where this degree of 60 might be, 60 from 12 o'clock over to there, or 30 degrees from perfectly horizontal up to there. Like I just don't have a snap there. But you see, I already have this one. This one shows up as a quadrant snap. So this is a great one to start my whole pattern with. That is 1 inch, right? It's a 1 inch diameter. I'll check that, but I think so. I've got one. So now I could kind of painstakingly do that. Like I could do the next one like it wouldn't be wrong to say the way if I visualize this and say this is my line, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put it across. See, I can do this by degree and type that in. Could go from here over 60 and put this in, and then I could have a crosshair to put two more on. But I want to show you this new command, and that is an array command. So on our modify palette, I have to have some geometry to work from to array. Array shows up down here, and yours might look like this rectangular array. But this drop-down list, I didn't explain this in the video where I did talk about all the commands that are available in modify. I left it for a time to use it like now. But the array command is I can either do like rectangular arrays, a path array, or a polar array. I think the primarily ones we use in mechanical drafting are polar and rectangular, and path array is rarely used, but it's just like I draw some geometry and then I can set up uh, and I can have that geometry like follow a path. So it's kind of like what's drawn is the geometry and a path for the geometry to follow, and then that's where it's going to kind of what it's going to kind of do. The blue stuff is recreated, whereas the rectangular array shows like I've just drawn one rectangle and I can do like columns and rows of repetition. And a polar array is that I've drawn like one, piece of geometry here, and then I'm going to array it around a center point kind of. So I'm going to use polar array here. When you select polar array as a command, it wants to know what objects I want to array. Well, what I'm looking to do is make a three pattern hole, a three hole pattern. So I'm going to select this is the geometry I want to array. And then I just hit enter or right click. Then the command line says specify center point of array. And down here it does too. And so I need to add, it's kind of this, the center point of the array is like what it's going to array around. So I'm actually going to choose the center here. So this main center is the control point of where these are going to be spun around at their, at the 60 degree or 120 degrees between each one increments. So it goes into the case that in order to specify the center point, I might be having some weird object snap show up here. So I can do that hold down shift, right click, and I'm looking for another center specific object snap. Once I do that, I can let go of shift after I've selected it from that menu. It knows now that the only object snap it's on is center. I don't get those quadrants or anything. I just get center once I hover over the geometry that has that kind of snap. So that's what I want. And then it takes over your ribbon menu and it shows a totally new ribbon menu. And it actually shows the geometry. I like that at least this default on CAD is going to be like a 6-hole pattern array. And so if I go over here and look, it's a polar type array. I'm just looking at my ribbon menu. The item numbers are 6 by default. The in between, if I hover over this, it's like the angle in between. So that means if I have a 6-hole pattern, the angle in between is 60 degrees in between each one. And the reason why it's 60 degrees between each one is because the default is also that I'm talking about arraying around a full 360-degree pattern, right? And so it just knows based off my items and that my fill is 360 degrees, or that I'm like, I want this pattern to go around the full circle. It knows that that's 60 degrees between. So the only thing I really have to change is the amount that I need here. Unless I'm doing something beyond filling a 360-degree circle. But if I just put in 3 here and then click down to the next box, it already knows if you have 3 items and you're filling around a 360-degree circle, then there's going to be 120 degrees between each one. And so it already does that for me. The next one over, rows and levels. Rows is definitely going to be for a rectangular pattern. But so I'm not going to do anything with these ones yet. I'm going to move over from the properties. I'm just going to keep this on associative. And then I'm going to say close array, and then it will go back to my regular ribbon menu. And then those have different properties. And now when I actually go to select these, they are kind of joined each other. Like it's like I can't independently move these without affecting the others. And so now that when you select these items, it opens up that ribbon menu again to just show you, hey, I'm in an array. If you wanted me to localize, I probably need to like explode my array, and you can do that. You can use the explode command to explode an array and then get them down to where they're just individual geometry. But I want mine to keep as this pattern. It's really the way to do this because it's powerful. I can come in and change and modify and make changes quick if I need to. So Yeah, this is an array. It's just an exposure to the array command. Really, this is done. Like I've said, I really don't need to draw these center lines out to the center of the circle and beyond. Um, until I start dimensioning. And that's why the assignment really carries those lines is to be able to carry the dimensions. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to call this done. I'm going to look at how it looks like on paper. I need to make a little adjustment here to unlock my viewport. Let's pan this over 1-to-1 scale. I accidentally scrolled a little bit, so I'll set this back to 1-to-1. And then let's center it roughly, lock it down. Let's take a look at this. I'm gonna make sure if I had this open before, I'm gonna close it. I don't think I need that one anymore either, but I'll leave that one open. So I previewed that. I like the look of the preview. Yeah, I like the look at the line weights. Yes. Nothing catches my eye that's incorrect here. So let's go ahead and end this. Save it, I mean. I think I have one that I changed. This one. Circular spacer in class. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna overwrite it on mine. You probably don't have this saved. I did. But there it is. It's my PDF. Go ahead and close that down. That's what I'll submit along with my drawing. So this one's done. And I think, turn off that. I'll save that. Catch you on the next one.